I want to spend some more time on this idea of the audience building it for you, because that's the benefit. But before we get to that, I want to circle back to the idea of having these guardrails in place. And you said something really key, and that is that creative people like to create new things.
Oh yeah.
So how do you have consistency and guardrails in place without stifling the creativity of the creative people?
Yeah, that's a great question. It really is. It's been fun figuring out how many different ways can we express this value and belief. Like when it comes to money, we have our beliefs about money. We got 3 of them, but we'll do sessions. Well, we'll get in a room with a bunch of writers and a bunch of other creatives, and we'll figure out how many different ways can we say this one value and belief. Like you want to leave room for the brand to grow and evolve, because as people, we grow, mature, and evolve, and our style changes slowly over time. But what matters to us doesn't change over time. Just how we express it can change depending on what's going on in the world and what's going on with the market, all this kind of stuff. And so we'll get in a room and just write as many different ways as we can say this as possible. Like there was one I really liked the other day that we were talking about money, and we said, how can we say this one belief about money? And they said, we wanted to have something that talked about comparison with money, and we said 0% interest in your opinion. Such a good line.
It's good.
But it's still expressing that thing about money, just
and
in a
it's
different
nice
way.
and snarky, which is very Ramsey-esque,
that's
right?
Very, yes. And so there are different ways to say the thing and different ways to put it in. But another good example is, we have a creative director here named Lee Floyd, and he's working on one of our websites, and we have a lot of guardrails for how the website needs to function and how it needs to flow and how it needs to how certain functionality needs to feel. But then we have areas where you can have complete expression in these boxes, like the header at the top of a website. That can have all kinds of visuals and all kinds of different people and have all kinds of headlines and all this that change season to season. But the way that the website is structured doesn't change.
Gotcha.
And that structure stays the same from page to page and from website to website. But there are little areas where you can have complete expression. And then you got Instagram and Twitter where you can put all kinds of stuff out there as long as it expresses the values and beliefs consistently. But you do want to leave that room to figure out new ways to say that thing. Dave, live like no one else, you can live like no one else. That's a part of living with freedom. Dave says that kind of thing in a bunch of different ways, but it all comes down to freedom. And that's the lifestyle that he's selling. Well,
it sounds like it's not a super tight leash. It's almost like these guardrails are defining the edge of a canvas.
Exactly.
And inside those boundaries, there's room for originality on how you're painting on that canvas.
Yeah, it's a great metaphor.
It's just don't go way off the edge over here, and it's something that we're not all of a sudden.
That's exactly right, yeah.
Okay, so you're talking about audience building it for you. I know a lot of businesses have experienced this dynamic and just word of mouth. Where do you get your business? Where do your new sales come from? Well, word of mouth. People talk about us. Yeah. If we can amplify people talking about us, especially if they're saying positive things, right? That's the secret sauce. I mean, there's no better marketing than your audience, your fans, your customers going, this place is great. You got to try them out. How do we create that?
Well, you got to understand. So we trust people's actions, not necessarily their words. Like we want to see the words, but we trust their actions. And when their actions are being good representatives of their words, then that's when we really start connecting. So I'll give you an example. CVS years ago, they were the first, or they said over and over again, we care about health. And so did Walgreens, and so did Target, and so did Walmart. Everybody said we care about health. But CVS, they're one of the first that took cigarettes out of their store. And they lost millions of dollars that first year. But then they gained it back the year after, and some, and then some, and then some, because people saw those actions and said, oh, wow, they really do care about health. Their actions proved it. And so if you understand those values and beliefs, then you could write down, well, what actions should I take if I want people to perceive me this way because this is what I believe. So it doesn't just come down to the identity, what everything looks and feels like, but also what actions, what moments can I create so our actions prove what we believe. I have there's a guy I go to for my car. Bobby's Automotive in Franklin. And, when I'm talking about brands, sometimes people say, you're always talking about Nike and Patagonia and Apple. These are big brands, but I got a small business. What am I supposed to do? I'm not Nike. I'm not Apple. I get that. But the principles are still right, And so Bobby's Automotive, I go to him and he cares so much about cars. He loves cars. He's so passionate about it that he loves taking me to the garage and showing me what's wrong and showing me how it works and all this. And I love it. He's so passionate about it. And there was even one time where he fixed something in my car, and later that day something else broke, and I took it back to him and he fixed it real quick, and he said, I'm not going to charge you for that, Tim, because I should have seen it when I was in already. I should have seen that, and that's on me.
Impressive.
So yeah, and so his action showed that he really does care about people. And his action showed he really is passionate about cars. You know, like his action showed this stuff. I tell everybody about Bobby's Automotive.
And you just told 250,000 people about Bobby's Automotive.
I know. But I tell everybody about it because emotionally that did something for me. Like I really connected with that, because I've gone to auto places before that don't that treat me just like someone else, treat me like a number. But this guy, he had so much passion around what he's doing, and he genuinely cared about people and his integrity. He didn't want to take advantage of anybody. His actions showed that, and that meant so much to me. And so I tell everybody about getting their, when they say I need to get my car fixed, I say, well, you got to go here. Trust me, this guy's awesome. But I am helping grow his brand, and he's putting no marketing effort towards that. He just emotionally connected with me by the way he acted, and they were a reflection of what he believed and valued.
So let's stay with Bobby's Automotive, because I think most small business owners can relate to a company like Bobby's Automotive.
Yeah.
If we were going to do this exercise with Bobby, is it Bobby? Is it his place? Okay.
Yeah, it's his place. Yeah,
so
it's Bobby.
Bobby's sitting here with us, and you're going, all right, we've got to work on your values and then the expressions of your brand and the perceptions. How would we walk that out with Bobby based on what you know about him?
Yeah. With Bobby, I'd walk it out. I'd sit him down. I said, Bobby, what even got you into this business to begin with? Like, why do you care so much about fixing cars? And he'd probably tell some stories that he's had in the past. You know, even in the back, he has like at least 3 or 4 cars all the time that he's building back up, you know, for himself.
Just like side projects.
Yeah. There's always like 3 or 4 back there. And so he'd probably tell stories, I don't know, about fixing cars with his dad when he was younger or something like this, right? And so I would keep on digging in on why does that matter to you? Why does that matter to you? Until I get to that point where I can tell like he's starting to get emotional. And then I'd write that down and be like, okay, that's a belief there. And it would probably be something around, I just really care about bringing cars back alive. You know, I just really care about that. You know, it might be something like that. And I would keep asking, I'd probably say, well, Bobby, what really makes you mad? Like in the car industry with other auto shops, like what really makes you mad? He'd probably say something like, you know, I've seen a lot of people in the auto industry, they know that a lot of customers don't really know about cars, so they could totally take advantage if they wanted to. And some people do, some people don't, but man, that makes me so mad when people do that. It's just not right. It's not right when that happens. So I want to be a business that doesn't do that. I want to be a business that actually cares about people. He'd probably say that, you know, like these are the things he'd probably tell me. So I'd write those down and say, okay, so it looks like what you believe is you want to see cars come alive, and you really love that. And you also believe it's not right for people to be taken advantage of. You know, I'd write down these kind of beliefs. And then I would sit down and say, now, Bobby, how do you want to be perceived? Like if you care so much about bringing cars alive, how do you want to be perceived? He'd probably say, I want to be perceived as a car expert. That's how I want to be perceived. Excellent. All right. If you really care about people and not taking advantage, how do you want to be perceived? And he'd probably say, I'd want to probably be perceived as a servant-hearted guy, like caring. I want to be perceived as caring. Things like this, right? And I'd say, all right, so if that's true, so caring and what did I say about the car one?
Bringing cars alive.
Yeah, bringing cars alive. But perceived as, I don't even remember what I said.
Oh, for bringing, expert.
Yeah, expert, that's right. Yeah. So expert and caring. If you want to be perceived as expert, then what does that look like? What does it look like? And it probably means bold. It probably means a lot of straight lines, things like that, like trustworthy in those kind of ways, right? A very strong font.
Firm.
Yeah, firm. These are words that designers can take and say, oh, I know what that looks like. If you want to be perceived as caring, what does that look like? It probably means like warm colors, like sunshine, these kinds of things, because it's inviting, it's welcoming. You can give those words to a designer and say, oh, I know what that looks like. And so now you have your identity. You have the words for the identity and the guardrails to give to a designer and say, I want it to look like this. I want it to look warm and inviting. I want it to look bold and firm like this. So can design what that looks like for me, right? And so that gets in there. But another question I would ask is, Bobby, if I were to do, as a customer, if I were to do everything that you tell me to do, what should my life look like? I would ask that, because with a brand, you're not just selling a service. Like Bobby's not just selling a service. He is selling a lifestyle. I actually don't believe there's such thing as a lifestyle brand and a non-lifestyle brand. I think all brands are lifestyle brands because you are in business to help someone's life be better.
Right.
You are helping their lifestyle to be better. So I think it's all lifestyle. So the best brands are selling a lifestyle. They're not selling a product or a service. The product or service is just a means to that lifestyle. Like take Dave Ramsey, for instance. How many people really want to do a budget? And how many people really want to listen to money advice? And how many people really want to do taxes? On the other hand, how many people want to live a life of freedom?
Yeah.
And free from debt, free from all this. When people can see that vision, then a budget's like, oh, I'll totally do a budget. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I see this.
It's a means to an end.
It is.
Which is the end is an experience that brings you joy and fulfillment and connection, right?
Yeah, sell that, because emotionally, that's what we want. It's not necessarily the product that we want. It's the lifestyle we can have if we do it. It's the better version of my life that I want to have. If you can show me a vision of that, then show me that. Sell that to me. Like put that on your website. Put that on there, because that's emotionally what's connecting. So I'd say, Bobby, if I were to do everything that you say to do, what should my life look like? And Bobby will say, if I fixed your car and your car was always running, your life, it would look like complete confidence that you will never get stranded. Complete confidence that your car will always work. When you go on a long trip, you have confidence that your car will get you where you need to go when you got to get there. Confidence is what your life would look like. Confidence in your car. Yeah. Nice, because that's what I want. That's what I want.
My car is really good. Great. He would say, if you're going on a long trip to the beach with your family, where you guys are going to be on vacation and you're going to be bonding, and the last thing you want, right, is to break down on the way to the beach, and you have to come back home and your vacation's ruined. Yeah. My goal is to make sure no family ever has to cancel. It's like you go all the way out to the connection of like, how is life better for people?
Exactly. Give them a vision of success of life. That's the lifestyle. Like that there is a story. A good humans that we like, they tell us things like that. They don't say, these are the kind of parts I fix on cars. these are the kinds of tools I use. They don't talk about it. Bobby doesn't need to talk about that. Tell me that story about the beach and the family. Tell me that, because if I can get that vision in my head, oh yeah, I'll totally go with Bobby.